So hello, thank you for joining us for the session on Global Forest Link. I'm Daisy Hessenberger. I work with the International Union for the Conservation of Nature in the Ecosystem Program with Veronica Ruiz, who's sitting back there. We work on nature-based solutions and also ecosystem assessments and ecosystem approach. And I'm very excited today to present Elena Yulaeva. So come on up on stage, Elena. And I'm very excited about this because engaging youth is something that we're looking more into. We're very interested in the idea of green jobs targeted at the youth sector. And this is going one step beforehand. It's not the jobs, it's a...
We are paving the road to green jobs, to people who are going to do these green jobs.
Exactly, paving the road to green jobs, engaging the youth.
Hello, everyone, and everyone who is listening not in this room. My name is Elena Yulaeva, and I'm going with my colleague Yvonne Andrés, and I'm going to present to talk about her a little bit later. We're going to present our environmental education project called Global Forest Link. We're very excited to be here and to present our project. What we're going to talk about today, we're going to tell you a little bit about the Global Forest Link and why we think it's really important for us to present it here at Eye on Earth Symposium. We are going to share the tutorials, downloadable resources, and tools to basically show where they are. We are going, if time permits, we are going to show you a couple of student-produced videos and invite you to collaborate with us. As I said, we're really excited to present our program here because we think that Global Forest Link supports EOE vision and mission. It actually combines different disciplines together to involve youth into the project-based learning. And it works across all the geographic boundaries and political boundaries and allows youth to collaborate across the borders. It supports data, information, and knowledge collection because our participants, they go into the woods and into the forests, into the parks, and they collect environmental data that we then help them to link to the global data. It engages youth into citizen science and allow them to contribute data to the society and to their communities. It also builds network and capacity and connects diverse communities. Our stakeholders include researchers, include practitioners, experts in forestry and climate, in land use, etc., and also the educators, of course. Global Forest Link aligns with the EOE guiding principles, and here I'm not going to read them, but I just put just 7, but I think we can add more. And during our presentation, we will try to stress the main principle that this or that component of the project aligns with. Global Forest Link supports the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and these are just 3 that I put together, but that we put together, but there are much more. But these are the main ones. It ensures inclusive and equitable education because we structure the whole program around the portal that allows everyone to join, to participate, to download all the materials, and to upload all the data and all the stories and all the photos. It helps to combat forest climate change and its impact. and promotes sustainable forests management, combats deforestation and biodiversity loss. Because our participants, they not only collect data, but they produce digital stories, and these digital stories, they contain call for action for the communities and for the global community. Now I'm going to turn it over to Yvonne Andrés. She's my colleague, and I want to just, before she starts speaking, to introduce her. She is the founder and director of the Global SchoolNet, and she facilitates innovative programs that demonstrate power of the internet to engage youth in activities that help their local communities while connecting them globally. She is one of 25 most influential people working in education technologies. In 2017, she was selected as a e-learning champion and was inducted into the Internet Hall of Fame. Does anyone know that this kind of Hall of Fame exists? You know, Al Gore was inducted, and lots of other famous people out there. Okay, Yvonne, can you hear us?
I can hear you, yes. It's 5:30 in the morning here. You probably don't want to see me anyway. So so thank you for including me. I'm speaking to you from San Diego, California, where, as I said, it's 5:30 in the morning. But I'm really happy to be able to participate and excited that there's a room full of people that are interested in environmental issues and involving young people and giving them the skills that they need to be successful. So I'm going to start with why that's important for science, and specifically how that aligns with what's called the next generation science standards in the US. So science has always been about learning the content, whatever the discipline has been. What educators and scientists have come to realize is that these things cannot be learned in isolation. So there's been a strong shift to a focus on explaining phenomena and designing solutions to problems rather than learning content in isolation. So after much research and many people looking at what is the best way to do this, they've come up with 3 different components that intertwine. And you should see on the screen a slide that describes what these are. So the first idea is what they call disciplinary core ideas. So that would be the core information. So if they're looking at environmental science and forest health, what is the basic knowledge that these students need? Then they look at the second thing, which is the cross-cutting concepts that cut across all disciplines of science, so that they're not learning this in isolation. And then thirdly, what are the science and engineering practices that are important? So the idea is that this 3-dimensional learning shifts the focus of the science classroom to environments where students use these core ideas, the concepts, and the practices to explore and examine why phenomena occurs, and that understanding content is linked to engaging in these practices. So can we go to the next slide? So the way that Global Forest Link works is we've taken all of these important ideas and we make sure that the students are engaged in different aspects of these practices and ideas throughout the project. So as you'll see a little bit later when Elena tells you about the visualization maps and how they're connected to satellite data, students are involved in number one, going out and into the field and collecting real data. So we asked them to go into their neighborhood parks or into the wilderness, if that's possible, and to look at the condition and health of the trees in that area. And how are those trees being affected by fire or drought or insect infestation or human development? So they go, they take their smartphones, they take photographs and videos, and while they're out there, they're going to be meta tagging those. We also want to connect them with experts in the fields, and we want it to be intergenerational because we old people have a lot to share with the young people, we hope, a lot of our experiences. So we set up a series of webinars where they can learn from the top people around the world, around the country, you know, in their own community, and be interactive with them, ask questions, learn firsthand. This project connects them to innovative technologies. So beyond just using collaborative technologies like document sharing and video conferencing, and they also connect, they're able to connect the data that they collect with satellite images, and they're able to see change over time. A very, very important part of our project is what we call evidence-based storytelling, or evidence-based journalism and storytelling. We want the students not only to learn and observe, but to share. Because this is, when they are able to share what they've learned with an audience, that information becomes so much more powerful. And so it's a wonderful way to engage the students with their community and with their parents, and really expand the knowledge that's happening in a typical classroom. And finally, we don't want them to be in isolation. What's happening in their community is often affecting and being affected by what's happening around their country and around the world. So we think it's very important that they have this global connection. They're able to share their experiences and their findings with their partners. Okay, next slide. All right, so I think I mentioned this earlier on, and the importance of this process that we bring them through, you know, this multifaceted process, is the development of critical thinking skills. We want them to move away from just understanding a bunch of disconnected facts and really focus in on these disciplinary core ideas that will help them explain phenomena, again, across disciplines. Because when they're in school, when they're in middle school and high school, they may be involved in environmental science, but then decide that the area they're really interested in is biology, or, you know, engineering, you know, any of the fields across the science disciplines. So it's the understanding the core ideas, the content, and then the practice of that content. Okay, next slide. So again, for the US, if anybody's listening from the US, these are some of what's called the science standards, for those that are maybe unfamiliar with how US science works, that the Global Forest Link project aligns with. So when students are engaged in the activities, they're analyzing data, they're interpreting data, they're looking at natural hazards to be able to forecast future catastrophic events. They're looking at geoscience data, they're looking at global climate models, and they're making evidence-based forecasts. They're applying the scientific principles to design objects and tools, and in our case, they're designing stories, and they're applying these principles to explain what's causing the situation. Are there ways that people can intervene, prevent future problems, solve existing problems? All right, next slide. All right, so how does it work? Well, I explained it a little bit earlier, but Global Forest Link is set up so that it can be implemented many different ways. It can be implemented as part of an entire group through a classroom or through an after-school program. It can be implemented on an independent study basis. All of the materials that the students and the teachers and the community needs are online. We have provided a series of tutorials and downloadable resources, which I'm going to talk about in a few minutes, that the participants can look at and go through a checklist, and it's sort of a recipe as to how to do this project. So all of the information is there. Then they do the data collection. Then they upload their data to a interactive map. So they're going to be able to do a collaborative analysis. And finally, they're sharing stories. So if there's any educators in the room, there's something called constructivist learning, which says that people learn best when they're involved in the construction of their own knowledge, where they create some sort of evidence of what they've learned. They share that evidence with an audience of their peers, and they get feedback. So that's the learning loop for all of the content that they're learning. All right, next slide. So what you should see is a list of links, and those are on our website, and they're freely available to anyone. And we have created a one-page downloadable, printable resource for each step of the project. Now, these can be used, again, across many different projects. They're slightly tailored to Global Forest Link, however. All of these things are important career transferable skills. So when you're involving students or anybody in a project, the biggest deciding factor is deciding the project scope. You know, how much time do you have to do the project? Who's going to be involved in the project? What are the resources that you need? So maybe later on, if there's time, Elena can click on a few of these links, but what it will pull up is a one-page printout of the process that you go through to define the project scope. After you've decided that, then you need to create a project plan. And again, there's a resource for them to do that, and a timeline. For young people and for old people, usually the most challenging part of completing any kind of activity is allowing enough time and properly dividing that time so that you end up with the result at the end that you hoped for in the beginning. So again, I'm not going to go through each one of these. We have the getting started, help people organize their project, the implementation. Once you've started your project, how do you keep on task, and how do you end up with the result that you want? And then we think it's very important, especially in this age of social media and social learning, for students to have a social learning plan. So how are they going to share and disseminate what they've learned with their community, with their school, with their parents? So we give them some templates that they can use. We give them some suggestions of how they can share it at different local meetings, community meetings, contact their news media, both the print media, the broadcast media, and share that information with them. All right, next slide. So what we learned from implementing this project over the past few years is that the teachers that we work with do a wonderful job in teaching the student the content, the information, the environmental science, and what they need a little bit of help with is helping their students become good storytellers. It's not something that we do often in school. So we have really put a focus on helping the students become better storytellers. And so we give them what we call story starter ideas on how they could present what they've learned. And we have some videos that they can watch. We give them some basics if they're going to do a digital or a video story, some really basic things about how to hold the camera and how important the audio is. And we ask them to pick a specific issue that they may have observed or they may find challenging. In San Diego, it could be that the trees are affected by drought. We don't have a lot of rain here in San Diego. We have wildfires. So how have the trees been affected by that? And then combine that with original research and what they've observed when they go out into the field. And then be creative. Include text and photos and video and audio and original graphics. And later on, when Elena shows you some of the videos that the students have created, you'll see that they get very, very creative. Some of them are animations, some of them are news interviews, some of them are narrated slideshows. So that's a very important part. And the nice thing about creating stories is that it creates a benchmark and an institutional history for future project participations. Students that participate next year can look at what students did the previous year and they can say, oh, I can do that and I can do it better. So every year the project grows and grows and gets better and better. All right, next slide. All right, I think we're back to Elena.
Yes, thank you, Yvonne.
Hopefully I didn't talk too fast.
No, actually we are a little bit late, so it was good. We created a video. When we started this project, we had a few high school interns who actually volunteered and helped us a lot because they created lots of materials from their perspective of view. So I want to show you the video that is called Getting Started, that is on our portal, and that we ask all future participants who want to participate to watch. But I think it's really nice video and tells a lot about the project. The Global Forest Link was started in 2015. Since then, we had more than 1,900 students from USA, Brazil, Ecuador, Russia, Hong Kong, Taiwan. And this is the map of, not the recent map. We just got students from Tbilisi, Georgia, talking about this 40 years. I want to talk a little bit more about the interview with experts. So for each phase of the project, we decide what would be the best fit of an expert for this project. And we ask the expert to do a presentation, but before they do it, they ask students to read short articles or watch some videos, and then students have time to prepare the questions. And again, we are working with school-age students, so schools are in session at different times. The time zones are crazy. And we just ask students who cannot participate to send their questions, and they will be asked by other students, and then we video record everything and put in our site. After each such a live event, students have a few minutes to communicate with each other, because it's really hard just to get them together to communicate on the subject without like the central theme. I mentioned a few times, and and it was also in the video that a big part of the project is data collection and data analysis, because this is something that we think should drive the stories that the students produce. And I want to go to our project portal and to show how it works. If you go to the portal, there is this menu at the top, and one of the buttons says Stories, and when I click on it, I will start with gallery. Gallery are the photos and data that survey data that students collect when they go into the forest. They take paper forms with them. They take pictures. They fill out the surveys on paper. Then they come back and transfer it into our system. And then we put it um, into the video analysis tool called SWAF, which was developed at the Supercomputer Center at the University of California, and we work with the main developer there who helped us to put it all together. But it's really simple system that we can actually put it together ourselves. This is the examples of photographs that were collected by students in fall of 2016. And you can zoom on each photo and see what it shows and get all the information about this part of the forest or park that was surveyed by this student. You can also, we also connect this information to the Global Forest Watch platform, where students, if they click on this link, they will get the map of the same exact spot, and they can look at the deforestation patterns and play the video that will show. So basically, this is the red are the tree. The red shows the tree cover loss. So basically, the video showed that there was huge deforestation going in this region, and by doing this comparison of on-the-ground observation and satellite images, we hope that students get this data gateways into the analysis and data science. They can analyze the metadata, the photos based on the data that is behind it. For instance, there is this question on the forest health, you can see that 20% of the students, of the participants in this particular phase of the project said that the forest health was excellent, then 70 that is fair, and then 9 that it's poor. And you can zoom to each picture and see why they see all the image and all the variables and really understand what is going on. But you can also, what you can do is also try to understand what influences the forest health. So for instance, there is this question asking them if they are observing lichens on the trees. And if they say yes, you can see that the percentage of the forests that are healthy rose to 30%. And this is an anecdotal evidence that they just derive from this data, but actually this is like the science-supported fact that when you have good environmental conditions, you have good forests, but you also have lots of lichens that you observe. And so you can add to this survey, we can add different questions and allow, depending on the country, on what they're interested in. For instance, when we got students from Brazil, they are interested in alien species, so we added this question, but we don't have the photographs recently. We also put videos in this kind of system so that the videos can also be analyzed by keywords by countries, etc., by city. And again, if we click on any of these videos, we will see all the information that was entered when the students uploaded this video, and also we can see it on the same space on the Global Forest Watch if we click on this link. Okay, let me go back. Again, the students share their digital stories on our portal, but at the same time, the best stories are put on the Global Forest Watch platform that have a layer called user stories. Let me go back to the presentation. And we have just a few minutes left, so I will show you one video and then answer the questions if you have the questions. So this is a video from Lake Baikal. So the last slide, we really invite you to collaborate with us. You can, we have Facebook page, Global Forest Link. So join us on Facebook, join us on Twitter, on Instagram, and register at our site if you want to participate in one of our projects. Any questions? Any questions from we can see
question.
Yes.
What do you do with the data once you've acquired it, and who do you provide it to?
So the data is what we use is called survey analysis via visual exploration, open source online system. Anyone can, all the participants can upload their data and then reorganize it in the system, and anyone can analyze it. So basically, it's sharing of analysis. So giving it another layer of transparency, because usually analysis is done with by one person, and they share the result of the analysis. Here you can share. You saw how I'm doing this. Basically, anyone can do this, and we can actually annotate it and share your snapshot and the particular place where you want the person to start to look at.
So could you give me some examples of the people who you think are using the data in a way? Could you give me some examples of the people who you think are using the data to influence policy decisions on management of woodland?
To influence the policy decision, I think that mostly, the local land use managers, they can use the photos and connection of the photos to the satellite images. But I think in our case, it's more the stories that are produced by our participants, because they share it with their communities. And they're very inventive how they can do this. They go to Rotary clubs, they approach media. We had at least 5 publications in the US and a few publications in Russia, and I don't know if there were other publications in the local media about the project and about the stories.
I have a question.
Yes?
Do you have any information on the sustainable forests?
On
Sustainable forests in your website? Do you have any?
not
my question is how. Yeah, sorry. My question is, how do you support or motivate NGO or volunteers that promote tree planting in sub-Saharan Africa, especially in particular Nigeria? Do you have any motivation or support for NGOs or volunteers that support or promote tree planting campaign?
We are also NGOs, so we actually trying to get any funding for our program. We don't have means to support other NGOs if they're doing this kind of work, but we work with other organizations that are supporting this, but mainly in the US. Thank you so much.
Yeah, please lastly, I have one other question, please.
Yes.
The training or the classes that you organize for students, how do you try to step it down for students that are living in a remote environment, that are having less access to internet, where all these things are really affected, especially in rural areas? What plans or what are you doing to step down these trainings or classes for those that are less privileged?
Yeah, this is our project can be implemented in different settings. You can do just part of it, but you have to have some equipment and some access to internet. And we will just talking today how we can do it in Africa. We will. I hope we will work further with the Indigenous Knowledge Bank. The people who are a very documenting this information. And I think our project really, there is a great synergy between their work and our work, and we will try to do it, but I think we have to look for funding that will at least provide some cameras or tablets to these students who want to participate.